Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Anthony with Apex, back again with another video. Today we have a Cadet leaf vacuum, or yard vac, whatever you want to call them, but it's in here for won't start. And let's get started on diagnosing this problem. So as always, let's do our thorough inspection, making sure everything is good. And this is a mower, so we're going to go ahead and check that oil first. And our oil is topped off, and this actually has some sensors on it. So it has a sensor for the discharge chute here, and what that's going to do is prevent someone from running the mower with the discharge chute not connected or the bag not connected, because you don't want this thing slinging rocks and debris at the user of the machine. So they put a little sensor on there to make sure that you have that connected. So that could be a factor on what's causing this issue of not starting. Okay, and on the front side here, what I noticed is that his spark plug boot wasn't connected. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect that. And that may just be it, but I doubt it, because this guy's a pretty mechanical guy. So I doubt that he didn't check that first, but you never know with people these days. All right, so next thing we're gonna check is the state of the fuel, or if he even has fuel. So something else I'm gonna go ahead and do is just remove this air filter. And I just wanna inspect this to see the type of environment that he has this machine in. And these are normally pretty dusty machines, because they just tear things up and create a lot of dust. And the bags are even kind of dust proof, so they actually limit the dust that is blown through them, because they need to be able to breathe, but they also need to be able to catch things. So his air filter here is pretty dusty, pretty dirty, but not terrible. So let's go ahead and check the state of the fuel, or even if it has fuel. So I'm just gonna remove this here, get a little flashlight here and look inside. And what I'm noticing is this gas is pretty nasty. It even has a little bit of water in it, it looks like, in sand. So let me bring y'all in, see if you can see this, but there's the, let me see if I can bring y'all in here. So you can see the, down in there, there's some like sand or something in there and a little bit of water beads. So that's telling me that we're probably gonna have a fuel related issue, but I'm gonna go ahead and, as always, when you're troubleshooting your machine, is duplicating the issue. So I like to make my videos for the homeowner, you know, who's trying to diagnose his machine, that you may have this exact same machine, but I'm also diagnosing it as if you're a mechanic, and this is the approach you're gonna wanna take. So now that I have this air filter cover off, I'm gonna make sure the thing is also choking. And this thing has a little choke linkage in the back. When you pull on it, it puts it in choke, and turn it off when you push it forward. And something I'm noticing here, it actually has some pretty nasty varnish on this, but it's choking very good. So it's closing it off all the way. So I'll bring y'all in for a closer look. All right, so as you can see, you see that little black residue sitting on the bottom of the carburetor there? Well, that black residue is super old varnish from this machine, probably sitting for a long period of time. So what we're gonna do, what I also wanna show you is that the choke butterfly there, you can see how it's open. And then when I pull this, it's now closed. So I always wanna make sure a machine is choking no matter what. So you need to be checking and making sure every machine is being choked. If you're a mechanic, or even if you're the homeowner, it needs to be able to fully close and fully choke off, because these things need to start in 1 to 2 pulls. 2 pulls is literally max, but 1 pull, every machine should start in 1 pull for 4 strokes, or lawn mowers, or really any machine that is, you know, a 4-stroke engine. All right, so I have it right here, and I actually connected my spark tester. This is gonna do 2 things for me. The first thing it's gonna do is that the machine with the spark plug boot removed, that may mean that this thing won't shut off if it does get running and they had to pull it in an emergency. But to be safe, I'm gonna put my spark tester on here so I have something large to grab to be able to shut it off, because I do not like getting shocked by these things. It will literally change your life. So with that said, let's go ahead and pull it over and see if it starts. So I'm not gonna spray anything in the carburetor or anything. I'm just gonna pull it over. So let's go ahead and put it in choke. On and off switch is right here. I got it on. Let's give it a couple pulls. All right, and these things are pretty noisy. They got a giant impeller in them, and these things are made to shred and tear up wood chips. So this is kind of a dual setup here. So you have the chipper right there where you can literally shove in branches, and then you have the bagger in the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of ear protection on, and let's give it some candy and see if it starts. All right, now that confirms that it is a fuel-related problem. So we had combustion, which means we have enough compression to run. We had spark, because you could see the spark tester doing its thing. And we had air, and the only thing we were lacking was fuel. It was only able to run on a little bit of candy I put in there. So now let's get started on rebuilding this carburetor. All right, so this is a Chinese carburetor. I don't do a whole lot of Chinese engines. In fact, I refuse to do them because they're hard to get parts for, and they're just annoying to work on just because of the way they're put together. But we're gonna help this guy out and see if we can get this thing taken care of for him. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove these two 10mm nuts here. Set those to the side, and we'll get rid of this bolt here as well. And we'll slide this thing off here. Okay, we'll take some pliers here and remove the breather. Just let that sit there. And got a little choke plate here. We'll go ahead and get this thing removed without breaking any gaskets, because I don't feel like making them or replacing them. Take a little screwdriver and stick it back in here and see if we can get that thing off of there. So it's basically like varnished on there. You can see just how long this thing has been sitting. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove this hose clamp here. I'm gonna take my pliers and basically like break the bead to make this fuel line come off a lot easier. Okay, now I'm gonna take some hemostats here and just pinch off this fuel line. And the first thing you're gonna wanna do is start getting the gas out of this thing. Before you even start to rebuild it, you need to get the gas that's in this fuel tank out of it. So I'm just going to pry this fuel line away here, just like this, and be able to remove it like so. So what I'm gonna do is get the gas out of it and connect a line to it and remove all that old gas. All right, so I'm gonna remove this little fuel line and see if I can get this stuff draining out of here. All right, so I got a little tube here I'm gonna shove in here, and it's going to allow it to drain out into my little gas can here. And I'll set it on the ground and let that start draining out. Like a little IV. Okay, and then as that's draining and it's gonna dry out, any water or debris that's in there is going to be able to flush all the way out and be able to evaporate while I rebuild this carburetor, or maybe even replace. So we gotta see the condition of this thing. All right, so now to get the throttle linkage off, you're just going to rotate this butterfly here and just use some pliers or even a screwdriver, and you can just slide this thing right up and out. It just sits there just like a little one slight bend, and it falls into place here. And now to get the choke one off, you're just gonna remove the carburetor all the way, and you can bend that linkage a little bit. It does have some play in it. And then I'm just going to rotate it up and out of the way. So if you want to, you can remove this whole tank assembly to get this thing off, but that's how I do it, and it gets the job done. So now we're just gonna blow this off and clean off the exterior before we open this up, because we don't want any of this debris getting inside there, because we're trying to get all the debris out of it. All right, now at this point, we're gonna clean off the exterior of the carburetor here and just get all of this gunk that's kind of just stuck to it over the years and get that busted off there. So this brake cleaner is just going to just help break all that down, and then we'll just put some compressed air to it and clean it off the rest of the way. Okay, so now you can see how nice it looks now that we've cleaned it off with the brake cleaner. So let's go ahead and set that to the side, and let's open this thing up and see what's going on. I'm expecting it to be pretty nasty. As you can see, that gas is very bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this bolt nut off here, and you can see this thing is pretty dang terrible. So you wouldn't want to smell it. Let's just put it that way. So go ahead and take our float pin out there, and the needle is actually stuck inside. So it wasn't getting any gas just because this needle is seized in place. And a lot of the time you can't really remove them. They're damaged basically in place, and they're not going to be able to come out. You can put brake cleaner and try to, you know, work it out, but they get so stuck in there that it's just, I don't even like rebuilding them because they will never go back in the same way. And you can see the way that bowl looks, that is pretty disgusting. So I'm just gonna try to work it out and see, and then we can do a little college try rebuild and see what happens, but it's going to be tricky. So as you can see, I'm pulling on that pretty hard. So you can see that this needle should just slide out with no problem at all. So if I put my pliers on it, you can see that that thing is in there. So I'm just gonna keep trying to work it out. If I break it, no problem, because you know why? I can just replace it. So I'm just gonna work this thing out of there. And I ended up breaking it, and that's usually what happens. So you saw how much force that took to come out, and that needle is just stuck in there. So that is no bueno. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the carb. Even the emulsion tube down in there, the main jet and emulsion tube, like getting that out of there, I mean, that is probably too far gone there. So as you can see, that thing is probably too far gone. So I'm gonna go ahead and price out a new carburetor for this customer, and we'll go ahead and get that thing replaced, get it ordered, and we'll move on to getting this thing back on the grass again. All right, so we got our OEM carburetor in, which is Chinese, but it is the actual one that comes on this machine, which is the Hai, or however you wanna say that, carburetor. But we'll go ahead and throw this bad boy on there and see how she runs. All right, so we're gonna put our choke linkage on first. Slide that one out of the way. So our choke linkage goes in the front butterfly there, and we'll kind of bend it around to where it'll slide on just like that. Okay, then our throttle linkage is gonna go on the other side there. Let me get a light so y'all can see. Okay, I got a brighter light here, so now let's shove this thing down in there. And then we're gonna take some pliers and hook our spring into the tiny hole right down in here. And bada bing, bada boom. I'm gonna go ahead and connect our fuel line right there. We'll put our little baffle here, slide that bad boy over, and now our air box. So let's try to connect our breather first. So I'm just gonna hold it here with some pliers, slide it all the way on, and then we will slide this thing in place just like that. 10 mil, put the bolt in on the top side first, and then the bottom one, the bottom two carburetor nuts go on right there. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and service this air filter. I don't think it needs to be replaced. It's not too terribly bad, so I'm just gonna blow this thing out. All right, so we got that all connected. We got the air filter blown out there, and we'll go ahead and slide this bad boy in place, and we'll put some gas in it. All right, so I'm just gonna gas her up here. Just enough to get her going. Okay, we'll throw our cap on there, and then we'll fire it up and see if it makes vacuum noises. All right, let's see what happens. I'm gonna put it in choke here, which is pulling it. Yep, turn it on, see what happens. All right, you guys, that is all she wrote for this leaf vac here. Just a simple carb rebuild, nothing crazy. And I went ahead and upsold the customer on doing an oil change because this thing does need one. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure we look everything over and service this thing out and make sure that he is happy with the service that I provided for him, getting him back on the grass again and putting this thing to work. Because he said it's been sitting, and now he can go to town on this thing and do what he needs to do. So if you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you got the guts, and we'll catch you guys next time.